Post-Hypnotic Press presents an unabridged recording of The Arrogant Autocrat, Stephen Harper's Takeover of Canada, by Mel Hurtig, narrated by Michael Puttonen. Dedicated to my 4 wonderful grandsons, Max, Ben, Elliot, and Sasha. Introduction. Stephen Harper's Takeover of Canada. I have spent much of my career warning Canadians about the increasing threat that foreign corporate takeovers of our companies and resource sectors pose to our sovereignty and to the overall economic and social well-being of our country. Through decades of sounding the alarm on takeovers, in book after book, and in hundreds of speaking engagements across the country, I never imagined that the greatest threat would come from the takeover of our democratic institutions by one politician, determined to remake our nation according to his own values and priorities. That one politician is, of course, Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper has been able to take advantage of a dysfunctional electoral system to seize majority power in Parliament with only 39.6% of the votes cast by Canadians. Majority power has allowed him to systemically dismantle our democracy, crippling or eliminating many of the institutions that have been developed over decades to deliver programs to Canadians and to allow for a democratic exchange of information and ideas between the electorate and the elected. I've written and published many books about Canada, many of them bestsellers, but this short book is unquestionably the most important because it is about the most serious takeover that has ever occurred in Canada, the takeover of our democracy. They say that voters' memories are short. When I began going through the material I had compiled on the actions of the Harper government over the last few years, I was stunned by how many past events had slipped from present memory, and stunned again by the scope of the damage he has done to our democracy, our reputation, and to so many important Canadian institutions. Numerous books have been written in recent years about Stephen Harper, his policies, and his governing style. Many provide detailed, in-depth accounts of the inner workings of government, while others focus on particular issues. This book does not attempt to replicate their work. My purpose is to provide a succinct overview and reminder of the scope of the damage Stephen Harper has done to our country, and to soundly refute the claims repeatedly made by his government that they have been wonderful economic managers since they took power. The evidence is overwhelmingly to the contrary, as you will see in the coming pages. This book is intended as a wake-up call to Canadians to reclaim our democracy and our country before it is too late. 1. A broken democratic system. How could this possibly have happened? Or, to be more specific, how could it happen that a widely admired progressive country like Canada, a country regarded around the world as a remarkably fortunate, highly desirable destination for prospective immigrants from every continent, finds itself in its present predicament? How did we end up with a far-right, ultra-conservative Prime Minister who has launched an all-out assault on our democracy and who is, as quickly as possible, dismantling many institutions that Canadians hold dear? What kind of democracy do we have when the government suppresses and tightly controls information that is essential to good governance, violates long-held democratic principles, and undermines so many of the processes that support democracy? Our elected members of Parliament and even our cabinet ministers are restricted by the Prime Minister's office in who they can talk to, when they can give a speech, what press interviews they can accept, and the nature of their comments to the press and the public. Brent Rathgeber, a former Tory backbencher and now independent member of Parliament for Edmonton St. Albert, provides a rare glimpse inside the tightly controlled Conservative caucus in his book Irresponsible Governments, The Decline of Parliamentary Democracy in Canada. He describes how, under Harper, MPs have been reduced to cheerleading and barking on command. He says Conservative backbenchers are permitted to say very little in the House of Commons and are punished if they step out of line. The Conservative caucus is more of a pep rally and doesn't include votes on policy in advance.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?